this corner. I'm Darren Atisha, along with the coach, Russ Anber. We are glad that you tuned in. We're going to get to AntonioMargarito in just a moment or two.
And I brought gloves for you, too, this week.
I know. We're looking forward. I'm looking forward to that little segment as well. That's a little bit later on in the show. Instead, let's start with Nate Campbell's fight. And you know what? Sometimes this sport He can fight, but he can't make weight. Now, here's a guy who chased belts for years. He finally gets his shot against Juan Baby Diaz, beats him, wins 3 titles. He's supposed to fight Joan Guzman in his first title defense. Guzman can't make weight. They cancel the fight.
So he loses out on $400,000 payday.
Right. So now he decides, okay, my next title defense is finally going to be against Ali Funeka. But guess what happens? Nate Campbell this time is the one who can't make weight. He came in at $138. They give him an extra hour to try and sweat it out. He only lost a half pound. So he loses his belts. They were not on the line, but the fight continued.
The fight continues, and early on here, second round action, Campbell hurts Funeka with the right hand over the top. You'll see him land it again against the tall lightweight from South Africa. Here it comes again. Bang! Right there. Down goes Funeka. It looked like he was going to be out of this early. It looked like Campbell was going to go, but look at this. Funeka starts to fight his way back, and after round 3, basically took control of the fight all the way through till round 10, landing clean shots like that and working behind a solid jab, Dutchie. But then here, late in the fight, Campbell, knowing he needs something, again, lands that right hand over the top and drops Funeka again. 2 huge knockdowns, which in the end would prove to be the difference in the scorecard. Campbell comes on with all kinds of pressure in the final 2 rounds to eke out the majority decision, Dutchie.
Yeah, so Ali Funeka got off the canvas twice, but in the end, it was Nate Campbell. Funeka's a bit of a freak. He's 6'1", fights at $135, so he's way up there. Nate Campbell, though, not able to make weight, so he has to relinquish the belt. He said he's now going to fight at $140. Your thoughts?
You know what? I just cannot understand how you can be so irresponsible at being champion of the world. You worked your whole life to becoming champion of the world at lightweight. Not 1 belt, Dutchie. Not 2 belts, Dutchie. 3 championship belts. And you can't have the obligation to make 135 pounds. You can't have the responsibility to make that. I can't believe that. But the fight was a great fight.
Right. I like what you said during podcast, too, and we talk about it in length.
Yeah.
You see these fighters who relinquish these belts. They don't really care about the belts. They're more motivated by money. But you said if you can't make weight, and if money really is what motivates them, sting them in the purse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take a big chunk of their purse. Next thing you know, guys will be making weight.
Don't
no doubt about that.
Disappear. Yeah.
Hey, please, if they put money on the line, you and I would be in much better shape. More highlights for you, and this one was another interesting fight as well. WBC interim super welterweight champion Sergio Martinez, who's 44-1-1, 24 KOs, taking on Kermit Cintron.
Look at this. There's the left hand that drops him. Drops him down there. He starts complaining of a headbutt. There was no headbutt. Now listen to the count. 9, 10. He reaches 10. The fight is over. Next thing you know, it resumes. There was the left hand that hurt him. Cintron complains of that it was a headbutt. Goes down. The referee counts. He doesn't beat the count because he hears 10. They let the fight continue. It ends up being a draw. Martinez gets robbed twice in the same fight. I couldn't believe it.
Well, and he was also deducted a point for a rabbit punch in the 12th.
That was ridiculous.
Which ultimately cost him the win. 2 scorecards were even, resulting in a 12-round draw. Crazy. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. So we got to talk about that later in the show, too. It's in your final Flurry. Now, elsewhere this week, IBF featherweight champion Cristobal Cruz retained his title with a unanimous decision over Cyril Thomas in France. It was Cruz's first defense since winning the vacant title last October.
And Dutchie, former IBF light heavyweight champion Clinton Woods got back to the world title picture with a 12-round unanimous decision over Elvire Marique in Channel Island, England.
Unbeaten WBC and WBO #1 rated super welterweight Alfredo Angulo upped his record to 15-0 with a 5th-round TKO of late sub and former IBF #1 rated welterweight Cosme Rivera.
Yeah, good fight. An undefeated WBA #4 rated cruiserweight Francisco Palacio impressively knocked out Lawrence Chaplin in round 1. Palacio is now 17-0 with 10 KOs, Dutch.
Okay, this is going to be good. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, though, we're going to talk about the AntonioMargarito suspension, and Rusty is going to show us the art of wrapping hands. We'll also preview fights featuring Miguel, Cotto, and Kelley, Pavlik. Oh, it's a busy week. You're watching In This Corner. Oh, welcome back to the show. Okay, on to your boy, AntonioMargarito. He was respected within the sport. Absolutely. Respected within the sport by his peers, promoters, the fans. They love the way this guy fought. but he had his boxing license revoked by the California State Athletic Commission last week for at least 1 year after they found out that his hands were in fact doctored prior to his fight with Sugar Shane Mosley. He's going to pay the price now, both financially and figuratively. With everything that's gone on, they had a hearing, and the hearing was rendered by the California State Athletic Commission that effectively bans the California-born fighter from fighting in the U.S. since other states generally uphold such suspensions under federal law. Now, the decision stunned and infuriated some, including WBC President Jose Sullivan, promoter Bob Arum, trainer Javier Capillero, and Margarito all insisted that the boxer had no knowledge of the illegal nature of the wraps, which contained, like I said, a plaster-like substance nestled tightly inside the usual tape on a fighter's fist. A few minutes before Margarito entered the ring against Mosley, officials discovered the plaster-like substance when Mosley's trainer, Nassim Richardson, ordered Margarito's hands to be unwrapped. The hardened-like substance, as you can all imagine, will give a fighter heavier hands, put a little extra pop on his punches. Margarito could challenge the ruling in the California courts, or he could apply to the Association of Boxing Commissions to get permission to fight in states other than California, although that might be somewhat surprising. Your thoughts?
Well, you see the way, I don't know if you noticed, you see the way they pulled out that piece in a pre-made pad. They pulled out a piece that was nestled in there, and that's what got them caught. And you'd have to wonder how many other times could that have occurred. Now, did
suspension, right?
Margarito,
length of suspension?
I think you have to. Did Margarito know about it? Maybe not. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he truly was unaware that this happened. But somebody has to be held responsible. And ultimately, when you're working for a fighter, the fighter is responsible for you. So any actions you do, remember, your fighter's going to be responsible for that, and that's how they have to punish him.
Right, and I understand where they're going with this, because Javier Capillero, he also gets a year. But if he was the one that taped his hands up,
he should have got more.
That's what I'm saying. Why didn't they give him 3 years?
He should have, because he breached a big confidence doing that.
You know what? It's incorrigible, because the sport by its very nature is tough enough. You don't need cheaters within the sport. With all the controversy that's hanging over the AntonioMargarito hand wrapping, a couple of weeks ago, we got Russ, who does this for a living, to sit down with one of his fighters, David Lemieux, and this was prior to a Lemieux fight in Montreal, and we watched how he went about his business of wrapping hands.
Now, this is on television. You like it being slapped hard, don't you, Dave? We do around the metacarpals to hold everything in place. Now we'll come up to the knuckles. And this is kind of important. This is where you want to get a nice pad. Other people might actually pre-make a pad and put it there, but I like to do it as I go, using my index finger and my pinky, and build it up to the size I need. And that's good. Dave says that's enough, so there you go. It's about a roll and a half each hand. Some people leave a full palm. I don't like to leave a full palm. I like to empty the palm out to get a better grip. Turn it under. I'll squeeze there so it doesn't stick. Hold this down. Now have the fighter close his hand. And once you get that first one good and in place, you build everything from there. What you want to do is solidify the hand. I've gone across here, and then I'll do this part here, where now I'm going to come across and make an X and build up support from top to bottom. Yeah, and that's pretty good there. I'm just going to seal all that up now. Just hold everything in place.
This could weigh 8 ounces on its own. Don't need boxing gloves.
And then the commissioner puts his John Hancock on it.
Ross, the best in the business. By the way, David went on to win his fight, yeah. We are happy to say. But I hear what you're saying. You said it was the pad. Some people pop a pad in there, and that's where they had the plaster-like substance on AntonioMargarito, so it was kind of hidden, whereas you use the tape and you fold it back and forth.
I use the gauze and just fold it right there.
I had a great time with you and Ray Chavez, who does that as well for a living.
Absolutely.
With Oscar De La Hoya, you guys went and you were talking about the intricacies of hand wrapping and stuff, but you got some gloves as an illustration.
Yeah, I wanted to
here.
bring these gloves here to show you, because these 3 gloves here are 3 that use foam padding. This is the glove that was used, the same glove used by AntonioMargarito. And as you can see, You can just press on this. There's basically nothing in it. Dutch, I'll let you squeeze it for yourself. There's basically no resistance. So you can imagine the kind of damage that would have done wearing. I mean, it's bad enough you feel the knuckles right through this anyways. I mean, it's so soft. Imagine if plaster's in there and you're feeling that in a glove like that. That's why gloves should be foam padded.
This weekend, we got one pay-per-view event. You got two individuals. They are miles apart. A couple of guys trying to bounce back from devastating losses in New York City on Saturday night. Guess who returns to the ring? Miguel Cotto, who ended up losing to AntonioMargarito. Now people are going, oh, boy, what's with that? Meanwhile, Kelley Pavlik, he returns after his loss to Bernard Hopkins with more. Here's Russ.
Kelley Pavlik will be facing a mirror image of himself in the form of Mexican challenger Marco Antonio Rubio. Though relatively unknown to many casual boxing fans, the 28-year-old Rubio may be every bit as powerful as Pavlik and has the potential to hurt the middleweight champ with each hand. On the other hand, Rubio is a notoriously slow starter and is vulnerable to being knocked out in the first couple of rounds. That may be Pavlik's strategy as he tries to regain the form that saw him burst onto the scene with spectacular KO wins over Edison Miranda and Jermaine Taylor in 2007. But with the power that Rubio has, and with the punishment that Pavlik has absorbed in recent fights, Pavlik himself may be right to be knocked out at this point in his career. Don't expect this one to go the distance, as these two guys have 67 knockouts between them. As for Miguel Cotto, this is an especially important fight against Brit Michael Jennings, given the degree of punishment that he took against AntonioMargarito. It was expected that he would take on an easier opponent for his return, hence the call to the 31-year-old Jennings. With the shadow hanging over the suspended Margarito, and the likelihood Shane Mosley will look for a big fight outside of the welterweight division, an impressive performance by the Puerto Rican could put him right back in the limelight.
Okay, we have to take another break. Coming up, is David Haye going to get his shot at one of the Klitschkos? And it's our February fighters in our outstanding age. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. Boy, does David Haye ever want a piece of Wladimir Klitschko. He's now offered to go to Germany, fight in Klitschko's backyard on one of their K2 promotion cards in order to revive negotiations for a summer showdown with the WBO and IBF world champion. Now, originally scheduled to take place on June the 20th in London, Haye's eagerly anticipated duel with Klitschko's hit a series of snags, now appears to be on the brink of collapse, Rusty.
And Dutchie, despite the 3 straight victories against 3 world champions that revitalized the career of Vic Darchinyan, Nonito Donaire believes he is the man capable of snatching the Australian's 3 belts. Donaire handed Darchinyan his only career defeat with a stunning 5th-round KO in 2007. Donaire said Darchinyan was a bit slower and cautious in scoring an 11th-round TKO win over Jorge Arce.
I want to see the rematch. The clash between 2-division world champion Paul the Punisher Williams and former junior middleweight titleist Winky Wright. It's now official. The middleweight bout will take place April the 11th, Mandalay Bay in Vegas. Williams has been bouncing from division to division to division looking for the biggest fights, while Wright has not fought since the July 2007 loss to Bernard Hopkins.
Williams so wants a big fight. Venezuelan KO artist Edwin Valero is satisfied to be with top-rank and Hall of Fame promoter Bob Arum and is planning on big-money matchups with Juan Manuel Marquez, Manny Pacquiao, Juan Diaz, among others. Valero is the former WBA super featherweight champ and will fight for the WBC interim lightweight belt April 4th against Antonio Pizzalua.
An outstanding 8, the fighters born in February.
Max Baer, combined with literally lethal punching power, Baer's personality made him perhaps the most popular boxer of his era. The film Cinderella Man wrongly portrayed Baer. Those who knew him describe him as a happy-go-lucky man, always looking for the lighter side of a brutal sport.
Lucky number 7.
Bobby Shez, a standout amateur star from New Jersey. Shez was known as the matinee idol, a gifted fighter. Shez's record is filled with star-studded opponents. In a pro career which lasted 18 years, Shez was a 2-division world champion.
Number 6.
Vito Anafermo, a hard-nosed brawler from Brooklyn. Anafermo took on the best middleweights of his era. After winning the world title, Anafermo took on Marvin Hagler in his first defense. A huge underdog, Anafermo goes the 15-round distance and retains his title in a draw.
Number 5.
Milton McCrory, a product of the famed Kronk Gym in Detroit. McCrory won the WBC title with a split decision over Colin Jones. McCrory would defend the title 4 times, Dutchie, before losing a unification bout to Donald Curry.
Rusty, time to get your Irish on. Number 4.
Barry McGuigan, the clone cyclone. Dutchie McGuigan is among the greatest Irish fighters in boxing history. A relentless punching featherweight, McGuigan thrilled fans with his all-out style. After winning the title, McGuigan defended it twice before losing his crown in the 1986 Fight of the Year.
Number 3.
Oscar De La Hoya, Olympic champion in '92. De La Hoya became boxing superstar for 2 decades. A multi-divisional champion, De La Hoya became a rare crossover star, meeting the best fighters of his era in some of the largest grossing gates in boxing history.
Number 2.
Emil Griffith, a veteran of over 100 professional fights. Griffith was a true boxing superstar, meeting some of the greatest names in the history of the sport. Griffith won world titles in both the welterweight and middleweight divisions.
And your number 1 February fighter is...
the former pound-for-pound king, Floyd Mayweather. Mayweather is a truly rare and gifted athlete, Dutchie, blinding hand speed and a radar-like defense. Mayweather has yet to taste defeat. Although presently retired, many anxiously await his return for some huge mega fights.
On we go now to Rusty's Soapbox, and if you cheat in this sport, it really can have a criminal and sometimes deadly effect, right, Rusty?
With all the controversy arising from the AntonioMargarito suspension, I just wanted to take this one step further. A couple of weeks ago, I reminded you of the horrific and criminal act committed some 25 years ago by trainer Panama Lewis when he removed the horsehair padding from the gloves worn by Luis Resto in his fight against then undefeated Billy Collins Jr. After a thorough investigation, both Resto and Lewis were found guilty of criminal assault and both served 2.5 years in jail. Lewis was banned for life, Resto never boxed again, and Collins would lose his life a year later, suffering from depression as a result of the loss. Following their investigation, the New York State Athletic Commission banned horsehair-padded gloves. The commission also instituted new rules and regulations governing the hand wrapping and gloving procedure prior to a contest. While it is acknowledged by just about everyone in and out of the boxing world that an illegal, immoral, and unethical act was committed, 2 things never happened. 2 things which until now have been largely forgotten. The first thing, and undoubtedly the most important thing of all, is that neither Collins himself nor his family ever received any compensation for the criminal act which was committed against him. While it was argued that Collins' death was not a result of the fight, the fact remains that Collins was so severely injured in the fight that he could never have fought again anyways. Hence, as a result of an illegal attack under the supervision of one of the most recognized athletic commissions in the world, an up-and-coming star had his career ended and never received a penny in compensatory damages. Finally, to add insult to injury, after all the findings, after the years of investigation, after the confession by Resto that the gloves had been tampered with, after all this, the decision in the fight was never reversed. While I know that does nothing to bring back Billy Collins, what it does do is put some semblance of closure to an ugly incident and restores Billy Collins to once again being an undefeated welterweight in heaven.
Well done, Rusty. All right, still ahead when we come back. Kelley, Pavlik, Miguel, Cotto. Will they get back on the winning track? Your emails are coming up next in Final Flurry. Welcome back to the show. Time now for Final Flurry. There's the bell. Let's get to it. The first one comes from Guy in Trois-Rivières. He says, hey, Rusty, what's your prediction between the Pavlik-Rubio fight? Going to be a good fight.
I think it's going to be a good fight. And you know what? Like we said in the preview, I think this could be very dangerous for Rubio early because he's such a slow starter, this guy. I mean, if he gets caught by one of those Pavlik bombs early, it could be good night early. And he's so susceptible to getting hit early and vulnerable. As the fight goes on, it could be competitive. So I think if Rubio gets out of the first couple of rounds, I think we could have an interesting fight. But I think I like Pavlik still. I don't think there's really been any damage done from the boxing lesson against Bernard Hopkins. Don't do it.
And I'm back in the prediction business, baby. I'm going with the ghost. And I like Miguel Cotto, too.
Put your money on Rubio.
This comes from Ivan. He wants to know, and we got to get back to this a little bit, the Cintron Martinez thing, I know it drove you crazy. That fight was ridiculous. Your thoughts?
I just do not understand how this could happen. First of all, let's just look at the fact. You're entitled to instant replay. You have a minute that you could have looked at a 10 count, okay? There's a minute in between rounds. You could have looked at the 10 count to see if he beat it or not. In my opinion, he gets knocked down with a legal punch. Even though he complains of the headbutt, the referee never made any indication that there was a headbutt. Goes on. The referee says 7, 8, 9, 10. And even pauses to give him a chance. Nothing. He says 10. Once you say 10, you're out. The bell rang, first of all. It never should have rang because he's not supposed to ring until The fighter is
Can't
on
get
his
saved
feet.
by the bell.
You cannot be saved by the bell. The referee said 10. We talk about fighters getting robbed. Poor Martinez gets robbed twice. Actually, he gets the point deducted as well. He gets it 3 times. He gets it 3 times in the same fight. I couldn't believe it. Martinez should have won that fight.
He absolutely should have won that fight. From Frank and Musha, how do you see the Cotto-Jennings fight turning out?
You know what? I mean, I think they got to get Cotto's confidence back up, especially after what happened against Margarito, although now he's feeling a little bit, that, oh, maybe it's justified. I was hurt by a guy who had loaded fists, and that's what everybody's going to be thinking who fought Margarito now. But, I mean, I like Cotto. I like Cotto back in this. He's a hard-working guy. He's a diligent gym rat, trains hard. I like Cotto in this one as well, and I think he's going to stop him.
I already
and
gave,
you too.
I gave that one earlier, because now I'm back in the production business. This question comes from Gerard. He wants to know, is there a rule that says that boxers have to wrap their hands?
You know what? That's a very, very good point. And you know what? It says in a rule book, in a commission rule book, how much gauze and tape you're allowed to use. But it doesn't say anywhere in the rule book that you have to actually use gauze and tape. It doesn't say anywhere that you have to have your hands wrapped. Now, if I have a fighter fighting, but my guy's fighting you, and you say, I'm not wearing hand wraps, I'm just putting my hands in the gloves. Personally, as a trainer, I have no problem with it. Go ahead. If you don't want to wrap your hands, that's fine.
Right.
Go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it's a protective measure for the hands, too, because they're too brittle. Absolutely. That's going to do it for In This Corner. Join us next week. Thanks for watching, folks.
Russ Anber's Clothing.